we're just jumping in real quick, what the stream is about is, so I do sort of career consulting, right? People come to me from time to time asking me, how do I get my dream job? Right? People of many different backgrounds, but a lot of software engineers, especially because I myself had a pretty prestigious job in software. I graduated from Carnegie Mellon, which is a pretty good degree, and all of that. But what people don't understand is that the degree and the credentials and your resume is definitely a part of what gets you interviews, but it's really not the biggest part of what gets you a really good job, right? And when I say a really good job, I don't mean just a job that pays really well. Specifically, I mean a job that you really want, right? Like, and your dream job can depend on what you want to do. For some people, a dream job is low paid, non-profit, something that they're doing to help the humanity. For some people, their dream job is just not working a lot. For some people, their dream job is working on some specific, very specific things they want to do. For example, like working at a startup and building something from scratch, learning a ton of stuff along the way, right? A dream job can vary from person to person, and people's ability to get their dream job also varies from person to person, right? So I do believe that almost anyone, not everyone, but almost anyone can get the dream job that they want. But the advice for how they go about doing it really depends on who the person is and what the dream job they're trying to get is, right? And I'll dive into some case consultations, which I plan to do a lot more of on the stream, which, by the way, if you want me to review your case completely for free, I'll do a 30-minute live consultation with you on a Discord call, maybe, on this live stream, talking about how you specifically can get your dream job. And seeing actual examples of how you can get your dream job will help other people get a path towards there too. So it makes for good stream content where everyone can talk and learn from it, right? But I wanted to start off with some general advice that I give people. And the problem with a lot of general advice with the job search, especially with the job market now down, you see so many YouTubers giving YouTube videos and such. But I like to start with an analogy, right? Because a lot of advice can feel vague and arbitrary a lot of the time. But a good analogy is always thinking about something like baseball. So if you go to a baseball coach and say, hey, I want to play in the MLB, and I play a little bit of baseball with my high school friends, but I've never played in like a real league. I've never gone to a coaching program. And I go to a coach and I say, hey, I want to play in the MLB. Now imagine if the coach's response was, hey, okay, that's great. Make sure to apply to as many teams as you can. Make sure to network with the team players. Like, bro, that is fucking bullshit. Right? People who are sitting there all day just doing like LinkedIn applications are just missing the point entirely. The point is to throw a really good fucking ball. If you can throw a ball really fast, the teams will find you. If you're really good at if you become a really good software engineer, then companies will find you, right? You can try to game the system, like you can use AI to create resumes, and then companies fight back by using AI to review the resumes and so on. But ultimately, what the company is trying to figure out from all of the interview process and screening is not to fucking make you miserable, it's to find who throws the ball really fast. And when it comes to software engineering, things your actual skill can very easily get obfuscated in so many things like your career and your roles. But what the person hiring you is really trying to understand is just like, can you do the job that they need you to do, and can you do it well? And the better you get at helping them understand that you can do it, the more easily you can kind of throw all of the frameworks out of the way, like the interview process, everything. A lot of times, like I've gotten jobs where I've skipped interview rounds and such, where like the interview process is just a heuristic, right? And if you can help them, they will help you. They don't want to interview 100 fucking people for the job. They are like, the interviewer is sitting there crossing their fingers, hoping that you are the person that finally is just good enough that they can just give you the job and be done with interviewing, right? So what you need to do is just learn to throw the ball really fucking fast. How do you do that? Well, you do that by becoming a good software engineer, right? And then the question becomes, how do you become a good software engineer? And really specifically, what your dream job is, how do you fulfill the role that for that dream job. Right, so that's kind of the opener I wanted to give you, and then we can talk more about what that dream job looks like for different people, and then we can do a case study of how you can break down your goals. Right, is say you have a dream job of becoming like a really specialized backend engineer for Nvidia, working on their like GPU level hardware architecture. That is an achievable goal. You just need to study some more specific things for it. You need to understand what you actually need to know, what they actually want you to do at the job. And again, job descriptions are not like the job descriptions they post on the websites are not the best place for this. Because a lot of times the job descriptions themselves are going to be either AI generated or lazily written by the engineer or sometimes even written by the recruiter. Right? The job descriptions don't even really understand what they want the person they're hiring to do. The interviewer does. So one way to understand is if you know people in the industry, or you can reach out to people on LinkedIn and understand what they do during their day. You need to first understand what the job's requirement actually is, right? You can look up YouTube videos on how GPU architecture works, and the more you kind of learn about this field and adjacent stuff, the more you'll understand what the job will actually entail, and the better you'll be able to figure out what you actually want to study, right? So then you can, once you understand what the job needs, then you can improve your skill sets along the same lines. But on top of this, a really common trap people fall into is specialization. They think, both the interviewers and the interviewees both think that specialization is something they want. But that's not actually true. So I read this really interesting book called Range recently. When I say read it, I meant like 10% of the way through. I read the gist and I started reading it. And it's really interesting where it talks a lot about how in the modern world, the need for specialization is slowly decreasing, right? The more what we need to what we need for a company to do a really good job is really good range experts, right? People who can do a bunch of stuff, people who understand the things around it. And I can give you a couple simple examples to sort of visualize this because this advice sounds a little bit weird when I first say it to people. Like imagine you're building a chair, right? And you have to build like the back of the chair, the seat, and the four legs. Now, if I hired three really good professionals, one of whom was working on the back of the chair, one of whom was working on the seat, and one of whom was working on the legs, they can't see each other's work because they're all working on it at the same time in separate places. It's going to be really hard for them to build a chair that actually works well. They'd have to plan a meeting, spec it out first, and then guess and check what small decisions the other people are going to be making, and then do their best accordingly, which becomes really complicated. Even though they're experts, it suddenly becomes kind of hard to make a good chair. But someone who is not nearly as much of an expert but just knows the basics of making a chair, if that person is making all of the parts of the chair, it's very easy for them to make a simple chair without even having a design in mind ahead of time that just works and looks nice, and they can kind of figure it out as they go, right? And to kind of further hammer in this point, I'll give you an example of the company that I worked at too, right? Elise AI is a company that went from nearly 200 mil valuation to now they're at like $2 billion valuation. They're nearly 10x in valuation. It's like the dream that every startup wants to achieve. And Elise AI did this with hiring a lot of engineers who had a lot of range, right? Even though it was a completely AI focused company, they didn't hire like 15 PhDs in AI. They didn't need that kind of specialization because honestly, most jobs and what you need to do at the job is really easy as far as the specialization is concerned. And even if you do occasionally need specialized knowledge, it's so rare that you can just spend like a day looking up exactly what you need to and then you know what you need to. Right? There is really no need to have like a 7-year degree to know every possible edge case you can encounter ahead of time. You can kind of just learn as you go. What's way more important is hiring people who see the bigger picture, who can work on sort of all of the small tasks together so one person can holistically take charge of a bigger project and execute on it. And that's the strategy that they use to become a really big billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar AI company, right? Big AI companies don't become big AI companies by hiring a shit ton of PhDs. Now, some jobs, some companies do need that, right? But the companies that need PhDs in AI, first of all, PhDs in AI are super fucking rare. Like a lot of them are just hiring like PhDs in physics and such, which again they have to expand the range outside of physics into AI to sort of be able to apply the knowledge. So the range, it goes back to the range argument. But even the companies hiring PhDs still need the PhDs to be good enough. Um, so what was I saying? I lost my train of thought there for a second. Yeah, the companies that are hiring these PhDs are only the companies like OpenAI that are trying to work at like the cutting edge of the field, making the LLMs the best they can. And even then, when it comes to my experience, like I've worked on iterating machine learning models too. And that's still something that you can do really well without needing to have a PhD in ML. And in fact, if you have a little bit of more knowledge around other things like how to use machine learning libraries well, because they all work in Python. And what I've seen is a lot of machine learning engineers who have like a master's in machine learning or a PhD will be really, really bad at writing code. And then ultimately they end up being slower and making a good machine learning model than just a good software engineer with a little bit of range. Right? So that's my thesis and argument for today. That's really all I wanted to talk about kind of in this intro. And I'm going to be streaming every day for the next 30 days, 29 days. I streamed yesterday and today. So I'm going to be streaming every day for like 2 hours, 1 hour, 2 hours for the next 30 days. And it will probably stay around this topic. We might move away from this topic if in a few days we feel like we've kind of hammered home all of the relevant points. And we could go a little bit more into like, people do exam prep. How do you do that? And generally just succeeding in life in many different ways and seeing many different cases. And again, understanding that to figure out how to succeed at different cases of life, you don't need to be an expert in that specific thing, right? If you can understand how to get a really good job, you can sort of apply the same reasoning and understand how to get a really good GRE score or how to get a really good SAT score, right? How do you get into a really good college? Really, it comes down to breaking down the problem into understanding what you're trying to achieve, what actually matters in what you're trying to achieve, and then working backwards to figure out how can you do the thing, right? Like MIT, who is MIT trying to recruit, right? MIT wants to find people who are creative, who have gone above and beyond in their own fields before even graduating high school. So then you can become those people, and then you won't have to worry as nearly as much about, oh, how do I write my exact application essay, right? Again, going back to my original point, if you want to play in the MLB, you just have the best thing you can do is just throw the ball 1,000 times every fucking day and get really good at throwing the ball. It's not about networking with the players. It's not about doing 1,000 applications. It's about none of that. But yeah, that's about it. And a follow-up question that I get that I guess I'll talk about tomorrow, I'll throw it in the notes, is for tomorrow, we can have in the notes that, how do you convert your value? How do you convert your value? Right? Like, you can throw a fast ball. You are a really good engineer. Right? Once you become a really good engineer, that's when you focus on conversion. And conversion is also a challenge. It's not trivial, but it's significantly easier than actually getting good at the thing, right? So actually getting good at the thing is like 90% of the game, and then the last 10% is conversion. But anyway, that's it for now. I will catch you later, and yeah, thanks for signing in. And remember to, I guess you can just reach me on my website in the contact form. If you want to be on the stream, you can DM me on Discord. My username is Zarish23 on YouTube and also on Discord. So you can just message me on Discord if you want to be on tomorrow's stream. I'll stream at about this time every day. Well, I'd say like a few hours earlier than this. So if you're US East, US West, it should be a little bit better time, like late at night. And that's sort of the target audience I'm targeting. But that's about it. Well, thanks for chiming in. See ya.